If you've watched this channel before, then you'll probably know that I'm somewhat of a controversial topic on the guitar pedal subreddit, but what you might not know is that there are some pedals on that subreddit that are just as controversial as me. I mean, there's a lot of arguing going on over on that subreddit, but I think the pedal that people fight about the most is the 29 pedals EUNA. I've had this pedal for a long time now, and I don't plug my harp into any other pedals without this being the first in the chain. So here's what it does. So today we're gonna get to the bottom of this and answer as many Reddit comments as we can using advanced comment answering technology. I'm gonna use software to make my harp type for me. The first thing we need to do though is understand the person who makes these. So I scheduled a quick call with him so I could ask him some questions. Hello?
Hey, it's Jess.
Wait, say it again? Oh my god, how the fuck did you stay so quiet in there?
I'm Jesse. I build these pedals. They're very nice. I build them in California.
What made you start?
There was stuff I wanted that didn't exist. You know, I grew up working as an audio engineer, and I grew up using all the gear that already existed. And, you know, in a few cases, so far 4, I couldn't find the one I wanted. I couldn't find the input driver I wanted. I couldn't find the boost I wanted. I couldn't find the overdrive I wanted. I couldn't find the output driver I wanted. You know, while there are many other wonderful solutions, none of them were fitting for me. So that felt like a good enough reason to sort of start building stuff. What else can I do? I'm a pretty good cook, make you a fine cocktail. I keep a list of good restaurants in different parts of the world.
The harp is plugged into the interface, and there's a program that translates the harp notes into MIDI notes. And there's another program that translates the MIDI notes into keystrokes. So you're gonna use the harp to type.
Yesterday, I created a new Reddit account.
No, you did not.
And I asked, I'm thinking about buying a 29 pedals EUNA.
Great.
How many comments did you get?
25.
Oh my god.
These people hate my guts.
Well, there were 2 comments that said this is bait.
It does sound like
That does sound like somebody's a cop. Hello, fellow peddlers. Got to Steve.
Your fucking account name is Steamed Ham 69. No wonder. That's your only post. Of course it's fake. God, you literally couldn't have done a worse job. If someone doesn't know what a unit is, how do you explain what it does?
This circuit performs buffering, but it is not a buffer. Think about how much finger control and how much tactile experience playing the harp is. If you got the cans on and there's a bunch of effects on it, it actually gets harder to articulate because you're not getting the feedback from the sound that makes you feel like you're connected in the moment. It's not really magic. It's just using a better power supply and using higher quality components and using shorter signal traces and a lot of things that audiophiles have been doing for a very long time that people just don't bother to do in guitar pedals because people love to tell you what's not important about gear. A lot of people, when they're making something that does input buffering of some kind or is a buffer, when you measure it, above 1K it starts to roll off. When you do the couple of things that you need to do to keep the input impedance nice and stiff at high frequency, it does make a difference in the tactile feeling for the player.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's more what people respond to than the sound. It feels like they're sitting there playing their instrument again.
I'm curious how you feel about this. Perhaps try changing your strings or tweaking the EQ on your amp a bit.
I mean, that's not a bad comment depending on what you're trying to do. It is handy to have a nice input driver for your pedal board, but if you already have some gear, it'd be great to tweak it. Make sure it's performing its best before you consider buying something new.
Okay, wait, this is from my Reddit account.
This one is, you're going to respond to the post, not a comment. It shows the EUNA at its price, and then it shows the Boss EQ at a lower price.
I'm gonna let you finish. I like talking about this comparison. I do appreciate that that's a popular solution that a lot of people use, and I don't like to poop on it that much. But when people are always like, "Mind you, getting graphic EQ," like graphic EQs, period, are known to sound terrible. They're necessary evils in live sound. There's very few graphic EQs that ever sounded good enough to be in studio work or be in like serious audio work, because the way a graphic EQ works, it has to have an amplifier stage for each band, and it throws them out of phase. So they make the phase response really bad, and they're really noisy. So what you're doing is you're going through another extra set of amplifiers that are low headroom and noisy. You're adding gain to certain frequencies, which means that you're adding noise. And you're doing all of this because you'd rather do that than correct the loss at the beginning. Correcting loss is different than preventing loss, which is less noise, tighter phase response, better frequency response, better headroom. Nobody uses the DBX31 EQ on their record, but everybody uses it on their show because it performs a function that is necessary in live sound. It's not an audiophile circuit, it's like a problem-solving circuit.
I mean, imagine if we said that kind of stuff to painters. If painters are like, there's a shade of blue that you get by crushing this specific rock and mixing it with oil to make paint. I crush rocks from my backyard and I use linseed oil to make this special paint that is like the color of my childhood. And then someone's like, why don't you just use brown house paint? You know, it's
Why don't you just go to Lowe's?
Yeah, just go to Lowe's, get some brown house paint. You know how cheap it is?
Everyone who uses one swears by it. Everyone who doesn't use one swears it's snake oil. Sorry, what are you typing over there?
Curious that those with first-hand experience enjoy it.
Russ, you couldn't just read it? Why do you have to ask for clarification?
So if you go to your video with Andertons, at the very, very bottom, there's a comment. It says snake oil salesman.
If you do any research about the classic snake oil salesman, you know what was in the bottle was like
Piss?
nothing.
Oh,
There's just nothing. There's nothing in it. If that was what I was doing, it would be so much easier to do it a different way. Like, sir, I'm driving so much metal all over Los Angeles. I'm tearing my hair out about like which types of capacitors sound better and trying to measure these things that are like so incredibly hard to measure and hear that most people don't bother and say it's not there. And you know, but it seems to make a difference to me, and I'm trying to figure it out, and I'm trying to like push the boundaries of like how good that type of circuit could sound. People are willing to believe anything other than it's good. I tried to make something good, and a percentage of people in the world agree with me. I'm very grateful for it. It's not 100%, but if it was 100%, you'd never see me again because I would shoot myself to the moon. These aren't the, I mean, maybe it's that I've already read all the ones that are really mean.
Yeah, yeah.
And like,
nothing
you know,
can hurt you now.
the ones that stay in my head are the ones that are like the marketing ones.
Yeah.
And the ones that like suggest that I'm like doing it on purpose to deceive people. If I was trying to deceive people, I would build it out of shitty components and goop it.
Goofing people would be so much less work. You know how many like 400-pound boxes of sheet metal I've driven around California? I get the metal made in California and it's made at this place in Pasadena, and it would be really expensive to ship it down to the place where we do all the assembly in Huntington Beach, and I shredded the whole car and broke the suspension because I was like filling it full of these huge boxes of metal. So you can fit a lot of them in a small space. And so each box is like 200 pounds. And the fact that I would do all that and like sitting up late at night trying to find the right parts, like, you know what parts are easy to find? Garbage parts. If I was willing to fill it full of garbage parts, like, dude, I would be on the beach right now.
This is the first pedal I ever made.
Oh,
Ding.
it's a boost.
Yeah, it's a little boost.
It's so cute.
It is really cute.
Do you
It's
still
a-
like it or no?
Yeah, it's great. This is actually a really good lesson. If you really want to design stuff from the ground up, that's why I have all the pedals, because I thought I had made something like really special and really unique, and I was like, nailed it. You do 5 minutes of research, and you're like, oh, this is a Tillman boost. Like, it's one of the oldest DIY circuits in DIY guitar pedals, you know? But I made it really good sounding, but it's 100% just a Tillman boost. And I was like, okay, back to the drawing board. There's so many of the boosts that you see, the Electro Harmonics,
I don't know. You could say anything and I
you could
believe
just
you.
put it on.
You can say you
It's
can call
called
it the Cheddar Bowl and I'll be like, yeah, I love the
it's
Cheddar
the
Bowl.
Cheddar Bowl.
Yeah,
They're all the same circuit. But when you don't know a lot of circuits,
yeah, you wouldn't know.
and all of a sudden you're like, oh, like these things are actually a lot more similar than I thought they were. But it's like, yeah, so I didn't see the patterns, and I thought I had like made something super amazing. And it turns out I just tweaked a Tillman boost, but I did have some interesting tweaks to it, and it sort of started my journey with really wanting to learn like what makes something sound better than other things, or like what even could better mean, you know. But the whole thing about the boost is like people are constantly in the world of audio. This happened to me like back when I was making like 8-track records in my basement, and when I worked at studios, and like when I was doing live gigs. People love to tell you what's not important, right? They're always like, nothing below the 100 hertz matters, or like nothing above 10K matters. People have all these ideas about what doesn't matter, and it's like, if you want to make good shit, one of the things you have to do is assume that it's at least possible that everything matters, you know, like. And so one of the funny things about the boost is that there's this mode on the boost that just like doesn't ignore stuff that everybody else ignores, and it's like, and then people hear it and they're like, why is it better? And it's like, because I just didn't ignore all the shit that you ignore, you know.
That's amazing.